I think what you said also about the evolution and it's gonna come no matter what. I think that's brilliant, and I want to tie that into the next section, which we'll talk about, which is high schools. Something, just a small observation that I want to make about high schools. I I had a good experience in high school and middle school and elementary school. I went to I Although there are some things I can nitpick about, the curriculum. I think I went to a great school. The teachers were happy. I had a good social life in school. But something that an observation I always made is I know you know this, that ADHD cases are just spiking. Like what? And if you step back and you think why, like all of a sudden, why are more kids getting ADHD? Is if it's genetic, why is this ki- mental illness just spiking? And then you have to think, okay, if kids are being forced to sit down in a chair, be silent, obey the system, stand up straight, you can't lean back on your chair, you can't rest your head, you can't do that. You have to conform to this way that they want you to be. You can't self-express. There's no self-expression. Obviously, they're gonna get agitated, and it's it's obvious that their attention span is gonna be low, and I think it's correlated, and that's correlated with why all of a sudden these ADHD cases are spiking. So what are your thoughts on that?
So, I mean, specifically on ADHD, I have a little exercise I do with parents. You hear again in this traditional schooling system, which is very reliant on memory and regurgitation. By the way, I call that like the in soccer, that would be the equivalent of learning how to juggle a ball. So, I can juggle the ball 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, okay, on my knee, on my shoulder, on my, head, etc. And it takes a lot of work. But it's a very, very, very narrow slice of the life, of a soccer player. Same thing in tennis. If I mastered, the the drop volley at the perfect slice shot, but then you've got the backhand, and you've got the smash, and you've got the forehand from the baseline, and the backhand from the baseline, and the serve, first serve, second serve, right? So a tennis game and strategy and fitness. And so school is really working this one muscle and ignoring all the other things. And in the case of juggling, you might even say it's a useless muscle when you actually get on the soccer field. Like, who cares how well you juggle the ball? Again, unless you're using it to build your skills on the field. So on the ADHD specifically, I will hear stories like, oh, my first child is doing well. They're a good student, but my second isn't. And so we'll explore that a little bit. And the types of stories I'll hear will be like, he's not interested or she's not interested they don't get good grades. They're not good students. And so I'll try to veer the conversation to what are they interested in, and some examples will be, like, what do you mean? Just ignore academics for a second. What do they like? Well, this boy loves soccer, for example. Okay. Can he, like, if you asked him to name, what's his favorite team? Let's say Arsenal. Can he name all the players on the team? Are you kidding? He can name all the players and the subs, maybe even the junior team this year and the last 5 years, and he can do that for most of the top Premier League teams. So this child doesn't have a memory problem; they have an interest issue. They're not interested in what's going on at school. The intelligence is there, it's just they're not interested. And the other example is, if you give me your least preferred subject, and I put you in a cinema, hall where this was playing 8 hours a day. It's the most. But let's imagine a topic that you really find very boring, given in a very boring way. And day one and day two and day three, and then you break out and I can't take this anymore, and we'll say, oh, you have an attention problem. You don't have an attention problem. It's not normal to sit in that chair and not want to break free. So I think the issues, there are many reasons why, and Ken Robinson has a great story about this, how the lady who ended up producing Cats, the one of the most successful. I don't know if she produced all of Cats or just the dance, the choreography. Sorry, the choreographer for Cats. One of the most successful musicals of all time. Who herself before that was a champion, a ballet dancer in school. Was actually kicked out of school. They just called her mom and said, "This child is disrupting every other student. You need to, it's not only affecting her, it's affecting the others. You need to take her to see a psychiatrist." And so she goes to see the psychiatrist, and he asks her a few questions. She answers them. The girl's in the background, and he says, "Give, let's do something." And he takes the mom out of the room, and there's a two-way glass where they can see what's going on. And he says to the girl, "I'm just going to take your mom out for a few minutes. We'll be back soon." And he plays. I think he had one of these roll-up little piano or instruments, that starts playing music. And he steps out with the mom, and he says, "Let's see what happens." And the girl just gets up and starts dancing. So he looks at the mom and says, "There's nothing wrong with your daughter. She just loves to move. So take her to a dance school." And what this lady ended up remembering, she goes, she put me in a dance school where I had academics, but I was learning. First of all, I met people. They allowed me to move. I met others who love to move. I discovered I've discovered tap dancing and ballet, and all kinds of dancing. And so there's nothing wrong with the child. Today, that same child would be given Ritalin and suppressed, basically. And just numbed into going through this system, right? And the other things, I think, also what's aggravating the situation is food. So shortcuts in food and generally in dopamine. So exposing children to screens where they're getting rapid and high doses of dopamine, and then the sugar as well. And then expecting them to sit still in a classroom is worse than if you imagine, 50 years ago when there wasn't so much refined sugar and there wasn't so much exposure to dopamine, with screens, and kids just moved more. So it's a symptom of many different things, and it's just coming to a head now, I guess.